Can you hear me?
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. In this edition, we'll be talking about all things Tottenham Hotspur. Of course, it is the international break, but of course, we provide Tottenham Hotspur content every single day. I've got another very special guest and good friend, Antony Costa, back on the channel. Antony, it's been a long time. How are you, mate? We've lost him already. We've lost Antony already. Of course, Antony at the moment... Antony, can you hear me? No, he's got such a bad connection right now. Of course, Antony at the moment is lead cast member of Mamma Mia, the party in London, which takes place at the O2. The dates have now been extended to 2025. And I read earlier today that a show in 2024 sold out in just 10 minutes. It is that popular right now. I think we're going to get Antony back. Antony, you back with us?
I'm back with you, mate. Sorry, it's going to have to be my phone. Apologies, everyone.
I was just saying that, of course, you're taking part in Mamma Mia at the moment as lead cast member. One of the shows in 2024 sold out in 10 minutes. It looks an incredible show, Ant. Tell us a little bit about it.
It's an immersive experience, so people can come there. They have a 4-course meal, and we all act around them. The action happens around you as you're eating and drinking. You can get up and dance. You can sing. You can shout. You can do whatever you want, mate. It's a one big party, and it's fantastic. And I look forward to going to work every day. It's great.
Of course, you've been touring with Blue, and Blue are back in early 2024. How's that been?
Yeah, been really good, Chris. Yeah, looking forward to that. It's nice to get back with the boys every now and again, but you know, for me, it's the love of the theatre, it's the love of the acting, and I love being someone else for 2-3 hours a night. It's great fun. I have a lot of there's been a lot of Spurs fans in the audience. Let's say that. So the minute they start hearing "gimme, gimme, gimme," it erupts. It absolutely goes mental. And the thing is, I've got to stay in character the whole time, Chris.
Yeah.
So they're talking to me. They're like, "Oh, so what do you think about Spurs?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, this is you know, I don't understand. You know, I'm Nikos. I own a taverna." And they're like, "What? But you do like all these pods?" I'm like, "I don't understand." And they're thrown from me. So
I just said, Antony, I just said when you had a few connection problems there that I've seen some clips and videos. It does look absolutely incredible. So I don't know how people will get a ticket at the moment, but if you can get hold of a ticket, then do go and see Antony because it does look absolutely amazing. Before I get into today's show, Ant, and ask you your thoughts on Tottenham, everybody watching, we will be reviewing the season, and we will also be rating every single player out of 10. So please do feel free to get involved. Give us your ratings. We'll put as many on the screen as possible. Remember that all of these shows are on all major audio platforms as well. We are part of the TalkSport fan network. And this past week, we were #1 in the charts in South Korea. So thank you so much to all of the people listening in South Korea. #2 in Russia, 2 in Taiwan, and #3 in Singapore. This T-shirt I am wearing was very kindly given to me by Matt. So do check out his Instagram at Starting 11. And we do have new sponsors and new partners this week. If you want to get hold of any Spurs tickets, either home or away, do check out Sports Events 365. Use the link below and you will get cheaper tickets. And Kit Bag for all of your Spurs memorabilia, shirts, training wear, hats, you name it, they've got it. Use the link below and you will get discounted memorabilia at Tottenham Hotspur. Antony, great to have you back. It is the first time this season. Of course, Ange Effect is appointed. We're 12 games in. We've won 8. We've drawn 2. We've lost 2. We went on that 10-match unbeaten run. Many pundits, many fans were getting carried away saying Spurs are title contenders. The first question for you, Have you felt this season, or do you feel right now that Spurs can push the likes of Manchester City for the Premier League title?
No. The short of it. I think what I never would have thought we would be in this position, top four as we're talking today. I think what Ange's done, he's come in, as you said, in July. He's turned it around. We sold our best ever player. You know, the thing about the whole how Spurs going to cope, how they're going to be doing this. But he brought the team together, the team spirit's there, the camaraderie's there. And that to me means everything when you see him on the pitch. But then injuries happened, suspensions happened, sending offs happened. And you do see the drop off in, you know, our starting 11 to the drop off from the other day. So I think if we can nick a top four place this season, I'll be very happy. But I want a cup run. I want an FA Cup run more than anything.
We'll come on to talk about that shortly. But I'll tell you what, Ant, I've mentioned your name a lot this past week because 10 games in, I'm thinking everything's going great. And then, of course, the week we've had, that Chelsea game, has completely ruined us, derailed us. As you said, injury, suspensions. And I'm saying, Antony Costa's right. We're cursed. You know, it's one of your favourite sayings. We're cursed. We're cursed. Tottenham are cursed. You always say that on this show.
We just are. I just think, like, all my mates, Ricky's of this world and the Hartmans and everyone, you know, they used to, you know, we used to have a bit of banter, as you know, and laugh. And they go, it's like, you're right, Costa. What game have you ever seen where there's been 2 sending offs and 3 injuries to your best ever players? Name me another team that's that happened to. It just happens to Spurs after being so good for the last sort of 10 games. And, you know, lo and behold, Poch comes back to White Hart Lane or the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and beats us. You can never. I could have written a whole story. I could have written a film about it.
For those people who haven't seen or watched or heard shows with me and you before, it's like you always give these predictions and they always seem to come true. So, you know, if Antony says something, go to the betting shop and put a tenner on it. I'm sure you'll get a few quid. And you mentioned off air to me that because of work commitments, you know, you're normally a regular at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and go to some away games, but you've been limited in the number of games that you've been to this season. But the games you have been to, the atmosphere, the feeling, you know, that Ange Postecoglou has instilled into this team and this fan base, it's been like a party atmosphere, hasn't it? It's been completely different this season.
Oh, it's been so different, Chris. You know, it's literally from dark to light. It's crazy that everyone's on board, and I think if they can see the football that he's trying to play, and we're trying to show the fans, like us as fans, and we're seeing it, and you can see people, you know, dying for that badge. That's all we ask for. That's all I want to see. You know, we're going to lose games. We're Tottenham Hotspur. We're always going to lose games. But it's the manner in which we lose them. Like the other day, the Monday night, we're down to 9 men. You know, Bentancur heads that ball, it's 2-2. You know, Dyer misses it, it's 2-2. Do you know what I mean? It's just all them things. I don't mind that. It's when you go 1-0 up and then you decide to sit back for 95 minutes. That's what I can't get on board with. I used to, because I think, right, Tottenham, you know, we're shaky. We're just get the win. And of course I want the win, but it's the way we go about it. And I think the way that Ange has set us up this season has been brilliant. And I think he's fantastic for the club. I really, really do.
And were you a fan of the high line with 9 men?
Oh, mate, it was literally like Ozzy Ardiles 94-95 season. I was like, you know, and I think to myself, going to school on a Monday and all your Arsenal mates taking the mick out of you. But listen, it is what it is. You know, would I have done that? Probably not, because I'm a cautious kind of guy. But Ange isn't, and we've got to accept it that we are going to be getting beat every now and again, and getting beat badly.
It's such a contrast, though, isn't it? Of like having every man behind the ball being defensive, to then having that such a high line with 9 men. Going forward, do you think that's going to work for Postecoglou, or do you think that, you know, some of the better teams, you know, because let's face it, you know, I'm not just saying it because it's Chelsea, they weren't that great. 11v11, we would have won that game comfortably.
100%, Chris, and that's what I said to a lot of people who were sitting around me, and they agreed. We all agreed with each other. 11 versus 11. Van der Ven stays on the pitch. Romero don't get sent off. They ain't touching that ball in our 6-yard area at all. And Vicario, what a revelation he's been. So I think, on another day, we could have, it's in ifs and buts, isn't it? But I thought we handled ourselves well, and it was nice to see the fans staying back after and applauding the lads that stayed on the pitch.
I haven't seen something like that for a very, very long time. You lose 4-1 at home, particularly to rivals Chelsea, and the fans were applauding. Yeah, incredible.
I know.
What's been your highlights in terms of matches so far this season? Because, of course, as I mentioned, that 10-match unbeaten run, a lot of pundits, a lot of opposition fans were saying, well, Spurs haven't played anyone yet. The 8 wins so far this season have been against Manchester United, Bournemouth, Burnley, Sheffield United, Liverpool, Luton, Fulham and Palace. The 2 draws, of course, against Brentford and Arsenal, and the 2 defeats in the past week against Chelsea and Wolves. What have you made of the season, and what's been your highlight so far if you were to pick a game or two?
I think my highlight is obviously going to the Emirates and giving them a good game.
Yeah.
I think any other day of the week or any other day of the season, we would have folded, as we've always done over there. We haven't won this since 2010, so I was expecting a loss. I really was. I was expecting who's going to make a mistake today. I was looking at thinking Romero's going to get sent off or give away a penalty needlessly. But I thought the way we handled that game, I think that's probably been my personal highlight. The Sheffield United, it's one of them, 97 and 99 minutes. Great.
Yep.
Again, it happened to us on Saturday, so it balances itself out. But the Man United game, I was there. I really enjoyed that game. Yeah. So Man United and Arsenal.
And I tell you what, you're so predictable by talking about the FA Cup. If there's anyone talking about trophies, it's normally me. But you brought up the trophy. Of course, we have discussed many, many times over the years about lack of trophies. Certainly the FA Cup. 91 was the last time we won it. Of course, we won it for a record 8th time then. Many teams have bypassed us now. But can I ask you very quickly about earlier on in the season when Postecoglou made 10 changes against Fulham in the League Cup? Were you surprised by that? And do you think, because I've spoken to many legends, many Celtic fans, and they all say that Postecoglou will take the cup competition seriously. Do you think that the FA Cup is going to be different to the League Cup earlier on in the season?
I really do, Chris. I don't want to be seeing 11 changes. We're not in Europe, so there's no excuses there at the moment. It's a game that whoever we get, home or away, we need to go out there with our best 11. I can't be having, this one needs a rest, that one needs a rest. No, it's the FA Cup, mate. It's why I love this club so much, because we were a cup side when I was growing up. We always went far, semi-finals, finals, lost the final, won a final. That's why I love this club so much. All right, I've supported them 42 years, but I love that FA Cup vibe. I love that run of who we're going to get. And I don't want to be seeing changes. The League Cup for me, again, I wanted us to go full strength. He didn't. Yeah. It is what it is. And it upsets you when people go, oh, it's only the Mickey Mouse Cup. Well, who are we to say that, who are we as fans to say that's a Mickey Mouse Cup? We haven't won it since 2008. You wouldn't hear any other club say that. West Ham won a European trophy this last season. Yeah. And you think to yourself, well, what exactly do we want? Europe and try and get to the next stage of the Champions League, or a semi-final, or even a final? Because for me, 2019 was a letdown. The final, It was terrible. We didn't turn up. So for me, if we can go on a good FA Cup run this season, I'll be very, very happy, and I will love Ange even more.
And can you be really honest with me? When Ange was appointed, how did you feel? Were you happy?
I was. I think it was one of their.
That's a no then.
50-50, Chris, because I just thought it felt like, oh, there's no one out there. Let's go for this guy. He's won a Celtic, he's won a Scottish Championship. He's won the treble with them. Let's go and get him and see what the fans think. I was very dubious. I'm too cautious for my own good, Chris. I need to relax a little bit. So
you don't need to tell me that.
Exactly. You know me very well, mate. So I think seeing him, I thought I've just got to get behind him because there's going to be no one else. But I just want him to be backed. I just want him to get the players he wants and not the club want. And I want him to just to go on and take cup seriously. Because Champions League, are we ever going to win a Champions League? Probably not. So the next best thing for me is a good cup run.
So before a ball was kicked in the Premier League, what was your expectation and what would you have been happy with? And has that now changed because we started those 10 games unbeaten the way that we played?
Well, I think when he first started, we didn't have the likes of Van der Ven. James Maddison was just signing. You know, it was all very ifs and buts and are they or aren't they? So for me, it was like, well, if we're not going to sign hardly anyone and we've got the same team as last season, minus Kane, well, I mean, if we could finish top 10, I'd be buzzing. It's the fact that he's brought his own players, he's brought the players he wants, and you've seen the progression from the likes, as I said when we started talking, Vicarios, the Van der Vens, even the Brennan Johnsons, the Maddison. Maddison for me is brought to play for Spurs. You know, even when he was at Leicester, I always thought he needs to come to Tottenham and wear the badge. So I love him anyway. I think he's a fantastic player, and he, as a vice captain, you see the unity that he brings to the club and brings to the players. You see, sort of last season, it wasn't like that. And I don't want to pick names out, but I'm sure people can understand what I'm trying to say. There was no unity there. Even after a loss, even after a penalty miss, even after Lloris letting in a last-minute goal, there was no unity there. And that's what you need. That's what I want to see as a fan. I want to see that camaraderie.
So, Ant, if I was to ask you now, predict where Spurs will finish at the end of the season, what would you go with? What were you going to be happy with?
As we're talking today now, with this now, I want top 4 now. I think if we fall out of the top 4, then we're going to be a banter club again, and I'm fed up of it. So we need to aim for a top 4 place, or even try and finish 2nd or 3rd. Just be above them lot down the road. I'd love that.
So Spurs finished in a Europa League spot, you'd be unhappy?
I'd be unhappy because of how we started.
Yeah.
And I think if we started on and off and we lost and we won and we drew and we drew and we won and we lost and we was like sort of like that, I'd be like, okay, the best we can wish for is a Europa League place. But the way we started, as I said, we've got it in our locker. These boys have got it in their locker to finish in the top 4. And that's what I want to see, you know?
The January transfer window, of course, is going to be very interesting. We'll talk about that later on. Let's move on to the player ratings, and let's start with the goalkeeper, Vicario. Many people in the summer were disappointed by this signing because everyone, or most people, wanted David Raya. Of course, then went to Arsenal. 27 years old, 12 appearances, and ever present in the Premier League so far for Spurs. 2 yellow cards, 4 clean sheets, nominated for the Save of the Month in August for his save against Man United, and nominated in September for his save against Burnley. What have you made of Vicario? And by the way, I'll start things off. I'm going to give Vicario a 9 out of 10.
That's a great shout. I think 9 out of 10 for me as well. I think I've never seen a keeper, and I think I spoke to Crackers the other week, and he knows about it because his son's a keeper and stuff. I've never seen a keeper shout at the back 4 as much as this guy does. He is constantly bang, bang, shouting, go there, what you doing? He cares. For some reason, he gets it. And that's what I love to see. I think he's been a revelation. He's absolutely brilliant. And even against Chelsea the other day, when we're losing 2-1, he was still giving it. He was coming out of his area. He was coming like 30 yards out, clearing his lines. And I never saw Lloris do that. I never saw Lloris do that in the last sort of 2-3 years. So, yeah, he's a breath of fresh air. And a 9 out of 10 is a great shout, Chris.
Great with his feet, as you say, and of course passionate. I know the likes of me and you love passion on the pitch, and you know, even when we score a goal, he's very passionate. Fraser Forster, he's only played 1 game, and of course that was in the League Cup against Fulham. Do you think that he'll get many games for Spurs? And no?
I don't think it's weird because you think so. I don't think Vicario is that type of goalkeeper to get the odd injury. Oh, mate, I hope I'm wrong. Blimey, I don't want to jinx him, but I don't know, he's just super fit, isn't he? So, listen, Forster, bless him. He knows that he's not going to be a starter for Spurs. And what do you give Forster? I think the only game really is the League Cup. So, and, we lost on penalties. I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. Yeah,
I agree. Emerson Royale, 24 years old, 2 starts in the Premier League, 7 from being a sub, 1 goal, 1 yellow card. He's played at the left, he's played on the right, he's played through the centre, also an appearance in the League Cup. What were you made of Emerson? I'm going to give him a 6.
Yeah. I think a 5.5, Chris. I'm going to go 5.5 for Emerson. I think his work rate, it's there. It is there. He tries. He does try. I can't knock him for his trying, the way he tries and the way he wants to win games and stuff. But is he the full package? Is he the first name on the team sheet in the back four? Probably not.
Would you say Emerson is a better defender than Pedro Porro? Because I think it's very evident that Pedro Porro is a lot better going forward, and he will certainly provide more assists in the team. And also, Ant, what I wanted to ask is, how do you feel about Emerson playing a central role or playing at left back when we've got injuries or suspensions?
It worries me a lot, Chris, because for me, when someone's a left back, they need to be naturally left-footed. Emerson's not, and that's what worries me a lot. The way he cuts inside, because he's got to, because he hasn't got a left foot, bless him. So he's one of them. Will he be a utility player for Spurs? I don't know. Is he happy being in that role of 1 week he's a centre half, next week he's a right back, next week he's a left back? I don't know. Maybe he wants more. And I think to myself, he does. Do you think does love being there? But
do you think in some ways, Anthony, he's been a bit unlucky because he did come into some good form, and then we signed Pedro Porro. Do you think he's been a bit unlucky in that regard?
Yeah, he has been unlucky. But the thing is, when we signed Porro earlier this season in January, he upped his game. He had like 6 or 7 games where he was brilliant.
Yeah.
But you can see the drop off, and you can see it's not consistently enough. Defensively, he's better than Porro, but I just can't see him being, in the starting 11 all the time.
Eric Dyer. It looked like he had been ghosted out by Postecoglou. I asked a number of guests a couple of months ago saying that, who would be next in line if we had injuries or suspensions or something tragic happen, which it did in that Chelsea game. Would Ashley Phillips be above Dyer in the pecking order? It appears not. 29 years old. Of course, his contract runs out at the end of this season. 1 Premier League start, 1 from the sub bench. Of course, that is in the last week. I don't think he's the type of player to be playing in this high line in this Postecoglou system. But
got a place.
Of course, Romero's out for the next couple of games against Villa and City. It looks like Eric Dyer will be there. It's probably a silly question, knowing the conversations we've had in recent years. Do you feel confident with Eric Dyer at the back?
No, I don't. I'm sorry. He's had many years at his club. He's seen probably 5 or 6 different managers. I feel for him because unfortunately he's always going to be a scapegoat, and that's sad to see. But let's talk. It's business. It's football is a business, and Dyer for me needs to go in Jan, or needs to. Yeah, it needs to go now. I think 9 years.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, Ant, actually, because there's been reports today from various newspapers stating that Daniel Levy wants to cash in on Eric Dyer in January rather than him leaving on a free transfer in the summer. Would you rather cash in, get some money? Yeah. And I know you're probably going to say to me, well, it depends what we do in January. So how important is January?
January is very important because I think by January we'll know where we are as a club, as a team, as where we are on the table. And I think if we're in that top 4 in that mix, we need to be better. We need another central defender and a striker. I'm going to give Eric Dyer. I'm sorry, mate. I'm going to give him a 4.5.
I knew you'd be a lot harsher than me. I've given him a 6. And Jamie O'Hara said on TalkSport earlier today that he would have much rathered Spurs give players like from the under-23s a go in the team.
Yeah.
Would you have rathered that rather than bring players like this back?
Because unfortunately, Chris, when we started talking, it's the same players that have been in that club that's let managers down, that's let us fans down. Now, I know I don't want to. I feel people might think I'm picking him out, but he was part of that. You know, he was part of it. And football, as I said, football is a business. You move on. You know, if I went on stage, I didn't know my lines for like ages, I'd get the sack. And you know, if I wasn't consistent, I'd get the sack. So it's one of them things where he was part of that team last season that lost 7-0 to Newcastle, that lost against City, that lost against Arsenal, that he was in that team. And I don't think he's an Ange type player. Sorry.
Let's move on to Christian Romero, of course, vice captain, 25 years old, 11 appearances in the Premier League, 2 goals, 2 yellow cards so far this season, 1 red, nominated for the Player of the Month award for October. Of course, Salah won it. I didn't know whether to give him an 8 or a 9, and because I've been really impressed with Christian Romero this season.
Brilliant. Brilliant, mate.
But with the Chelsea game, do you feel slightly let down by his actions in that Chelsea game?
Yeah. I think with Romero, he played the occasion and not the game. I think he was so up for it. He was so pumped. And a pumped up Romero will get you into trouble. He's going to get into trouble. And I thought that him being made vice captain might have calmed him down, cooled him down. And he did for like 8 or 9 games. He was brilliant. It's just he's always plays on that edge. He's always got it in him. You know, is he going to give away a penalty? Is he going to elbow someone? Is he going to go through someone? Is he going to punch someone? Do you know what I mean? He's got it in him. And I don't think...
But us fans, we love that passion. We love to see that passion, especially in games like Chelsea.
Do.
So if you were to speak to Romero now and say, this is what you need to do, what would you say to him? What does he need to change?
Just the fact that even though Chelsea are one of our main rivals, don't play the occasion. Play the game. Play what you've been playing for the last 8 or 9 games, because you've been absolutely outstanding. You've been brilliant. But it's that 2% of being away from 100% that he's got it in him to do something silly. And the thing is, Poch probably would have sensed that, being, you know, from the same country. He probably knows of him. He knows him. So he'd have gone, right, get on Romero. Do that. Do this. Make sure you wind him up. And he does feed into that. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm giving Romero 8.5 out of 10.
And Messi said he's the best defender in the world. Do you agree?
Yeah, he's up there. He's up there. When he's good, he's bloody good.
Yeah. Pedro Porro, 24 years old, 11 appearances so far this season, 2 assists, 1 yellow card. Of course, got the his second assist of the Premier League season at Wolves for Brennan Johnson's goal. I've given him an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, Porro for me has been the player that's he had an average season last season, right? He wasn't brilliant, he wasn't terrible, but he has come on leaps and bounds. Now, if you told me give a player for their effort, for how they are on the pitch and G'ing the fans up and G'ing the players up, he's up there for me. And he's just transformed himself. And yeah, I'm with you on that, Chris. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. He's been brilliant. You know, defensively, as I said when we started talking before, needs a little bit of shaking up. You know, I'm not a defender, but what I see on the pitch, he sometimes ball watches, but his all-round game and his all-round being there. Yeah, 8 out of 10, mate.
It's interesting, in the last couple of days, whilst on international duty, Kulusevski said that his first conversation with Ange actually said to him, I could improve you a lot as a player. Do you think that Pedro Porro is one of those players that he has improved? Who else do you think he's going to get something out of Postecoglou that we haven't seen yet?
Johnson, Brennan Johnson, and Yves Bissouma, and Sarr.
Yeah, we'll come on to those.
Yeah.
Another one, and Ben Davies, 30 years old now, only 2 starts in the Premier League, 4 sub-appearances, 1 in the League Cup. Now, it's interesting because when I went to the game on Saturday, I would say, and I know you're going to probably laugh here or shout at me or swear, but I would say that Ben Davies is probably our man of the match on Saturday. Okay. But Postecoglou was shouting at him the whole game, get up, get up. Can players like this play in this system?
They're always going to let you down. That's it. That's the answer to your question. He will always let you down. It's gentle Ben Davies. It's just plays it safe. Just gets the ball. Runs back. Gets the ball. He's not exciting enough. And again, like he coming on to him and Dyer, they need to go now. Thank you for your services, but it's time to move on.
What do you say then to Postecoglou? Because he said you can't have 26 world-class players, and you need players like this. And when he's spoken about players in training, he says that Ben Davies, Oliver Skipp, players like this are the best trainers at Hotspur Way.
Yeah, but they don't get in the first 11. So, I get what he's trying to say, Chris, that you kind of, as what he said, 20 world-class players. But it's them players that let you down. I'd say to Postecoglou, go and watch games from last season and the season before that and the season before that. Go and see how many times we conceded because of mistakes. That's what I'd say to him. And I'd say to him in Greek as well.
Interestingly then, who would you have given man of the match to on Saturday?
I didn't see the whole game. I just saw bits and pieces. I was running up and down on stage. So
it was Ben Davies, Dan. It was Davies.
Well, I'll have to hear what you're saying, mate, but we still lost, so it don't matter, does it?
I knew you wouldn't like hearing that. Harry Winks has gone now. Harry Winks is like the Ben Davies is your Harry Winks. Mickey van der Ven, I tell you what, he is the only player, and I've given a 10 out of 10 because I don't think he's put a foot wrong. He has been an unbelievable signing for Spurs. The recruitment in the summer, brilliant. 22 years old, 11 appearances in the Premier League, 1 goal. He also played in the game against Fulham in the League Cup. 1 yellow card. He has been sensational, hasn't he?
I love him. I absolutely love him. If I was a young lad growing up, a Tottenham fan, I'd have his name on the back. I wouldn't now because I'm a 42-year-old man, but it says me with your name on the back of his shirt. But I think he's what we've been crying out for, and I love him. I absolutely love him. Yeah, all right, he's got a couple of own goals. It is what it is, one of them things. But he dusts himself down. He cracks on. He just gets on with it. And was he 22? You said, or 21?
22.
Mate, please. Let's keep hold of him. I swear, please.
And do you think this partnership with Romero and Van der Ven can be as good as Toby and Jan?
Yeah. Because I think we've got better players now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you what's really impressed me is the fact that the amount of times that a player has been running through to Vicario and then out of nowhere, Van der Ven just clears it up. He has been an unbelievable signing. And I think he's only going to get better as well.
He will, Chris. And I hope we can, sign him till 2028 because he needs to be at Spurs for a good number of years. Yeah.
Destiny Udogie, of course, he spent time at Udinese last year, only 20 years old. Hopefully he's going to be back for the Villa game. 10 Premier League appearances for us, 2 assists, 4 yellow cards, 1 red. Of course, he's dealt with the likes of Saka and Salah extremely well in games against Arsenal and Liverpool, respectively. Yeah. I've given him an 8 out of 10. I think he's adapted to the Premier League so well. Your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I've given him an 8.5 out of 10. I think he's been brilliant, and he's only 20. He's only going to get better. And the fact that, as you said, he's been up against the likes of Salah and Saka, and he hasn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah,
he stood up against them. It's like me acting with the greats in front of me. You've got to step up, and he's done that and more. I think he's brilliant. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And I think having Van der Ven and Romero next to him, he will only improve his game.
And let me ask you about the Chelsea game with your doggy. Of course, he got that second red. What did you make of the challenges? What do you make of the challenges? Because many thought that first challenge should have been a direct red.
Yeah, it should have been. That's what I'm saying. It's silly. It's something that he will probably look back on this week or whenever he did and go, I can't do that again. I can't put my teammates under that amount of pressure ever again. He's going to get booked. That's the type of player he is. But it's how you learn from that. And I hope he has, because we can't afford to lose him again this season.
Are you surprised to see him adapt to the Premier League so quickly? Because it's incredible, isn't it?
He's been brilliant, mate. It's as if he's been playing for years for Tottenham. It's strange. Like, who was that? I can't remember our left back last season. That's how good he's been. Do you know what I mean? Like, who was it? I don't even know.
Well, Perisic played a lot of games. Ben Davies.
See, forgot about him.
Yeah.
Sorry. But you know what I'm saying? That's how good he's been, because you think that he's been there for years and he's only 20.
Yeah. Oliver Skipp, and 23 years old now. Only one start in the Premier League this season, 6 from the sub bench. Of course, he played in that League Cup game as well. 1 yellow in the Premier League, 1 yellow in the League Cup. He had a great game, scoring a couple of goals against Barcelona in the pre-season friendly before the Premier League season started. He seems to be way down the pecking order now. I've given him a 6 out of 10. Do you think that someone like Oliver Skipp might be banging on the door in January saying, let me go out on loan?
Either that, or you want to go and play week in, week out football. So is it a case of, do they sell him or do they loan him out? I don't know. Is Ollie Skipp going to take you to that next level, Chris? If the 2 central midfielders are out, is he that player that you can sit back as a Tottenham fan and go, I'm all right today, because Skipp's playing? Personally, no. And I don't want to be rude again, but he hasn't progressed. Do you know what I mean? He's 23. He hasn't progressed. And that's sad to see, because you think, playing under all these different managers, he would get better and better. So, no.
These previous managers have said that Oliver Skipp will be Tottenham's next captain.
Well, I don't know. They should have got a Specsavers, Chris. and any other glasses outlets out there as well. Yeah, no, not for me. Bless him, not for me.
And next up, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, 28 now, 2 starts in the Premier League this season, 9 appearances from the sub bench. He played in the League Cup game against Fulham, 3 yellow cards in the Premier League. I've got to say about Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, and I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10, because I think that whenever we've called on him, he's been super professional. Yeah. His attitude has been exceptional, because some people could have just said, "Oh, I'm not getting game time, sod this," and that's it. He hasn't done that.
No, and I think the 7 out of 10 is purely for his professionalism, and the way he's dealt with being on the bench, not playing week in, week out. And I think, as you said, when he's been called upon, he's done an okay job. So I think a 7's a fair shout.
Would you be sad to see Højbjerg leave if he left in January or at the end of the season?
I would only be sad if we haven't brought anyone else.
So you think it's time for him to go?
If we can bring someone else in, because you're forgetting Bissouma and Sarr going off to the Cup of Nations. So we're going to be even more, thin squad. So
Yves Bissouma, 27. Of course, we signed him from Brighton the season before last. Now, 11 appearances in the Premier League this season, 6 yellows, 1 red, suspended against Villa, as I said. I'm going to give him an 8. It would have probably been a 9, but the red card against Luton, I thought, was really silly.
Silly.
But his performances, and we have now got the player. We are now seeing the player that was playing week in, week out for Brighton.
Yeah. It's just, he needs to, like Romero, needs to calm his head a little bit. He gets booked so easily, far too easily. He gets booked in the first 10, 15 minutes of a game. Then he has to go back in himself because he's scared to get sent off. So I would give him a 7.5 out of 10. It would have been an 8.5 had he not been suspended against Villa.
How good do you think Bissouma can be, Anne? How much more do you think Postecoglou can improve him?
He loves him. You can tell Postecoglou loves him. And I like the fact that he loves him because, as you said, he is the player that we're seeing now that we saw at Brighton, that used to come to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and terrorise us.
Yeah. Now, James Maddison. I've written down here 9.5 stroke 10. Do you know what? I think I'm going to go with a 10 because...
I'm going 10, Chris. I'm going 10, mate.
You said, born to play for Spurs.
Yeah, his character, his assists. I think him and Van der Ven missing is just a massive blow to Spurs.
Yeah. Well, 11 appearances in the Premier League, 3 goals, 5 assists, 1 sub-appearance in the League Cup, 2 yellow cards, Player of the Month in the Premier League in August, playmaker, leader. I've got to admit, and I'm like you. When he played for Norwich, I was crying out saying Spurs must sign this guy. When he played for Leicester, still shouting out Spurs must sign this guy. I'm absolutely delighted that he's now in a Spurs shirt. I know it's a really silly question, but how important is someone like James Maddison if we want to finish in a top 4 spot? Very important. He's one of the most important players that we got to finish in that top 4. I think he's so experienced, but he doesn't come across as experienced. Does that make sense? He still comes across as a big kid, but it's all up there. I don't know. I just love watching him. I love everything. But he's a leader. He's a leader as well. Yeah, and I love what he brings to the table. And it's just so sad that we're going to be missing him for the next 2 months. I'm gutted, mate. I'm absolutely devastated. Yeah, and of course the games come thick and fast. There's not much more I can say about him. I just love everything. I love watching him live. I love his interviews. I love the Insta stories they do at Tottenham. He has been a breath of fresh air at this club. Yeah, of course, we know he's out injured for the next couple of months. But do you think that Gareth Southgate for England should use him a lot more? He should do, but I'm glad he don't because he plays for us. I don't want him to get injured on international duty. I don't know why I ask you some of these questions. I can answer them myself. You've known me too long, mate. Come on. Antony, Ivan Perisic, who you forgot, 34 years old now. Only 5 sub appearances in the Premier League. Of course, he's out with an ACL at the moment. But in those 5 sub appearances, 2 assists in the Premier League, 2 yellow cards. He played that game against Fulham in the League Cup. His assists, I think that Spurs are really going to miss his assists. And I think that, being such an experienced player, Postecoglou has missed out in a lot of ways by not having someone like him available. Yeah, I think his experience, I think he liked playing under Ange. You could tell that. Which is quite bizarre because he was Conte's first ever signing, and it was just like he was Conte's boy, but played in the wrong position. So Perisic, I mean, we're going to miss him because of his experience and his where he's been there, done that, worn a t-shirt type player. So I'm going to give Perisic a 6.5 out of 10 because we haven't seen much of him. Yeah, I'm going to give him a 7. Would you expect him to leave at the end of the season? Of course, his contract is up. Yeah, he's done. Yeah, he's done. Yeah. Thank you. Giovanni Lo Celso. I've got to admit, Anne, is a player that I feel has really let Spurs down, not really played very much for us. He's gone out on loan a couple of times, 27 years old now, only 3 appearances in the Premier League, all from the sub-bench. He started the game against Fulham. He went off after 45 minutes. He's only played a total of 38 minutes of Premier League football this season for Spurs in those 3 sub-appearances. I've given him a 5 out of 10. 4.5. I know so many people who keep telling me, Chris, Lo Celso is a fantastic player. We will get the best out of him. We will see him thrive at Spurs. I just don't see it. I know he's been on loan for like 2-3 years on and off, but he's been at the club since 2019. That's nearly 5 years ago. Enough's enough. He needs to move on now. He needs to move on. You would sell him in January? 100%. Because he don't bring anything. Unfortunately, he doesn't bring anything to the table. It's not like he comes on as a sub and he changes the game or creates something or assists. It's not like he hasn't had the chances as well. Do you know what I mean? Is he the sort of player to come in now with Maddison missing? Is he the sort of player to come in and really knuckle down and say to Ange, look, this is my position. I want to grab this, with both hands. I want to grab this opportunity because let's face it, when you've got suspensions and injuries like we do, I know we've said this time and time again over the years on these shows, but it's about players coming in, grabbing opportunities, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think he's got it in his locker, Chris. Sorry. I don't think, mate.
Yeah, well, I've given him a 5 out of 10. Manor Solomon, of course, free transfer in the summer, 24 years old. Another one with injury problems, out for the next couple of months. 2 assists at Burnley. Only 2 starts in the Premier League this year, 3 from the sub bench, 1 yellow card. He played the League Cup game as well. I've given him a 6 out of 10 purely for the 2 assists at Burnley. Yeah. He looks a decent player, Ant, but of course, another one with injury problems right now.
Another one, never got injured last season for Fulham. Comes to us, he's injured within the first 2 months or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I think, 5.5 out of push, just because of his assists, as you said. I haven't seen much of him to say it's the next best thing.
What did you make of him at Fulham, and what did you make of him before he signed for Spurs? Were you excited when Spurs signed him on a free?
Yeah, I was, because I thought he's a tricky little player. Do you know what I mean? He reminds me of the Aaron Lennon of old. Do you know what I'm saying? So he's got it in him because he did it for Fulham. But will we see it at Tottenham? I hope so, but I don't know. The jury's still out with me, unfortunately.
Next one, Pape Matar Sarr. I've given him a 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
only 21, and like you said earlier, like your doggy, he's 20. Sarr 21. You forget how young some of these players are sometimes. But 10 starts in the Premier League, 1 from the sub bench, 1 goal. He had a sub appearance in the League Cup, 2 assists in the Premier League, 3 yellow cards. Yeah. He is at the Africa Cup of Nations in January, as you mentioned. Another player, and when I say about taking an opportunity, he's been unbelievable this season, hasn't he?
Superb, absolutely superb. And I'm going to give him a 9 because I think he deserves it. He's taken he's taken his opportunity. He hasn't folded. He hasn't been scared. He's not nervous. He's calm on the ball. All right, he might make the odd, bad pass or whatever, but that's just football. But he learns from that. As the game grows. The game grows. You can see him, Bissouma. He loves playing next to Bissouma. Bissouma's bossing him about, telling him where to go, what to do. And I think he's only going to get better. So the future's bright for Sarr, and I think he's a brilliant player.
Anthony, when there's Sarr, Maddison and Bissouma, and then Bentancur's back to full fitness and playing like we saw him when he got his Champions League football, who misses out? Oh, we've lost Antony. He's probably just had some phone problems with his battery. He's gone from the laptop, he's gone to the phone, and now he's gone off again. So we will wait for him to come back. Of course, we do have many other players to go through. We were talking about Pape Matar Sarr. We will come on to Rodrigo Bentancur, Heung-min Son, Richarlison, then Brian Hill, Kulusevski, Johnson, Viles, Scarlett, Sanchez, and then of course we will talk about Ange Postecoglou. We will also cover who Antony thinks that we should sign in the January transfer window and sell in the January transfer window, and he's coming back.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, the phone just died. Apologies.
No problem. So who misses out for you, Ant?
In terms of what?
When Maddison, Bissouma, and Sarr are all fit. And then Bentancur is back to what we saw.
I think it'd be Sarr, mate.
Is that fair on him?
No, not at all. Not at all, my friend. But it's not.
It's kind of a good situation, though, isn't it?
It's a great situation to be in. I wish we had that with our strikers, but I think with Maddison playing the way he does, with Bentancur, as you said, the way he can play. I think it's only good for the club. It's only good for the team. So yeah, I think it might be Sarr that's left out, and I don't like saying that, but I think it will be.
Let's come on to talk about Rodrigo Bentancur. Of course, he spent 8 months out with an ACL. 3 appearances now from the sub bench in the Premier League. 1 yellow card. what have you made of him since his return? And I know exactly what you're going to say here. He's now on international duty with Uruguay, which every Spurs fan, like head in hands time, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I said this to a pal yesterday, and he made a point. He said he needs minutes, and if he can nick 20 minutes there for Uruguay, take him off. If he can nick a 45 a first half against the other team, then
too early though.
What's that?
Is it not too early?
Yeah, 100%. But you've asked me a question. Would I prefer him to be back at Tottenham doing his rehab? Absolutely. But he ain't. If Uruguay come calling, he's an international player. He wants to play for his club, his country. So you can't deny the fact that he wants to do it. Personally, for me, I'd rather him be at Hotspur away. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think it's quite unfair to give him a rating, and so I've not given him a rating because of course, he's only ever played three sub appearances. Right now, leader, captain, 31-year-old central striker now, Heung-min Son. I've given a 9 out of 10. 12 appearances in the Premier League, 8 goals, 1 assist. He had a sub appearance in the League Cup. Player of the month in September in the Premier League. Hat-trick against Burnley on the 2nd of September in the 5-2 win. I've got to admit, Ant, Heung-min Son was criticised on Saturday, and I felt after the game on the Spurs Chat Podcast, I actually said that he lacked service. How many times have we said that about Harry Kane over the years? Certain games lacking service, but Heung-min Son, and we'll come on to Kulusevski in a minute, and you'll be surprised that Kulusevski has not registered any assists so far in the Premier League this season. But what have you made of Son? Because 8 goals in 12, is he on for the Golden Boot this year?
I hope so, but that's not important to me at the moment for Sonny. I think Sonny just wants to keep playing his game. He's the captain now, as you said. So just keep what you do. Keep doing what you're doing, Sonny. I've given Sonny an 8.5. Straight 9, ordering 9. It's in that in between stage because he does go missing in games. He does. He has done over the years. I'm not. Let's call it up. Let's call it straight. Kane's gone. With Sonny, he's been there. So he's been there for a few good years now, and I think he's brilliant, and I love him and I love him dearly. But just I think 8.5 is a good rating for him.
And what did you make of the appointment of Heung-min Son being captain and Maddison and Romero being vice captains? Were you pleased with that?
Yeah, very pleased. Very pleased. It was only one option for Ange, and I think he did the right thing. Giving it to them. Yeah, I was well all for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another player we want to talk about, Richarlison, 26 years old. Of course, he signed for us 18 months ago. He's only scored 2 Premier League goals in those 18 months. This season, 7 starts, 3 from the sub bench, so 10 games in all. 1 goal, 3 assists. He played and scored in the Fulham game in the League Cup earlier this season. 2 yellow cards in the Premier League. And what have you made of Richarlison? Of course, he was a £60 million signing. I think a lot of us expected a lot more. Ange Postecoglou played him in that central role. Of course, Heung-min Son now plays in that central role. Richarlison, in the last couple of days, there's been lots of reports out stating that Saudi clubs are interested. What would you do?
I'd sell him. Unfortunately, I just don't think it's worked out for him, bless him. Whatever's happened in his personal life, I don't know what he was going through. Apparently, he was going through a lot of stuff, but sometimes you've got to leave it at the door. And once you cross that white line, I just don't think he's delivered, mate. He hasn't delivered. You've just said his assists and goals and all that malarkey. And I think,
can it work? Can it work for him?
I want it to. I really do want it to, but I don't think it will.
Do you think Ange will carry on trying to work with him, and do you think he's still going to get the chances?
Chris, he's tried, mate. He's given him chance after chance. If he ever went, he can't turn around and say, I wasn't given a chance. If he was coming off the bench on 88 minutes, expecting him to win us a game, then he's got a point. But he starts 9 times out of 10. He does start. So yeah, I think if you know, as you said, if the Saudi clubs come calling, I think you like to think they're going to sell.
Brian Hill, of course, made his first appearance in a Spurs shirt this season from the sub bench against Wolves. That's the only appearance so far this season. He's had injury problems. 22 years old. Of course, he's spent time away on loan. And what do you make of Brian Hill? Can he be a hit at Spurs?
No, he won't. No, not good enough. Not good enough. I've never seen anything for me to go, wow. Sorry, there's not been a game where I can sit here and go, oh, wow, he did that. Or you could see what he's trying to do. I want it to work because he's a Spurs player. I want to support the geezer. But it ain't going to happen for him.
I'm laughing at your very direct answers. It's like a simple no. If Ricky Norwood was on, we'd have had a 15-minute speech.
Mate. We would have been round the M25, up the A1, come back down, and then you sort of ask him a question. So what do you think, Rick? And he'll go, well, I don't know. But me, I just think you've got to be brutal. You've got to be brutal. Can you sit there, Chris, and say you've seen anything?
No. I know a lot of people would be upset about it, but there's players like Lo Celso and Brian Hill, I think that we probably need to move on. And I think sometimes you need to think of like these players need to think of their careers and what they're doing. And I think they'd be better off elsewhere. Spurs get the money in, Postecoglou then buys who he wants.
Yeah.
Kulusevski, who I mentioned, 23 years old now, played all 12 games in the Premier League so far, 3 goals, had a sub-appearance in the League Cup. 1 yellow card. He scored the winner against Sheffield United. No assist this season. I've got to say, and that, like I said on Saturday, I think like Brennan Johnson, Kulusevski, I think that they need to probably do a little bit more in terms of their end game, their end play, and providing. Kulusevski, I think, is a great player, but it's that end product. I think he needs to do a whole lot more. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I watched, obviously, I went to the Spurs Chelsea game last Monday. Excuse me. And he does get in some fantastic positions. All right, you know, he scored the deflected goal, whatever. But after that, he had so many chances. So many chances. I don't understand why. And defenders know what he's going to do. He's going to cut inside on his left foot all the time. I like Kulu. I think he's a really good player. Not great, but he's good, and he can get great under Ange if Ange is persistent with him, and I think he is going to be. So I'm giving Kulu a 7 out of 10.
That's exactly what I've got written down. 7 out of 10, and I think you're right. I think Kulusevski will improve under Ange game by game, week by week. So looking forward to that. Yeah. Of course, Brennan Johnson signed from Nottingham Forest, 22 years old. I've given a 7 out of 10. Yeah. He started 3 games in the Premier League, 3 sub-appearances as well, so 6 games in all. 1 goal, of course, that was against Wolves at the weekend. 1 assist, 1 yellow card. I thought it was a shame, actually, and in that Chelsea game where when Romero got the red card, he had to come off because I thought that he had a great opening 15 minutes or so. Yeah. What have you made of him?
Kulu, you know, I might have sacrificed Kulu. I think Brennan Johnson down that right-hand side, he was absolutely terrorising him. You know, and their left back could have got booked, and once he's booked, then he'd get on him again. You know, he has got that in him, and I like him. Yeah, of course, his end product might be a bit hit and miss, but he can only get better, and that's a player that Ange wanted. You know, so
yeah,
you've got to back him. And I like him.
Yeah.
I'll give Brennan a 7 out of 10. He's only been here 2 minutes. So
yeah. I agree. 7 out of 10. And I love the fact that he can play on the left, play on the right, and he can play through the middle. So a very versatile forward. Yeah. What have you made of Viles, the striker, 20 years old, signed for us from Rosario Central? 3 sub-appearances in the Premier League so far. He's played a couple of games for under 21s, 1 yellow card. There is talk now about him going out on loan to get some game time. Would you send him out on loan?
No, not at all. I don't. I've seen him for 10 minutes. You've got to give him game time here. You know.
Where's he going to get it?
Yeah, but what if Sonny has God forbid has an injury? or we start losing players. He can't go on loan yet. You've signed the kid, give him a chance. Play him.
Okay.
Play him. What worse can he do? Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know much about him, so I can't give him a rating because I haven't really seen him play. But you know, if change it up a little bit, Ange. Do you know what I mean? If it ain't working, just try something different.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I wouldn't send him out on loan.
The other two players who played minutes for Spurs this season, Dane Scarlett played the second half in the League Cup against Fulham in the League Cup defeat. He's now on loan at Ipswich Town. And of course, the player we sold, Davinson Sanchez, his sub-appearance in the League Cup, of course, missed a penalty in the competition. That's why we went out. Lastly, Anne, Ange Postecoglou, the rating for him, I've given a 10 out of 10. I don't think that Ange could have done any more. You could say, you know, the 10 changes against Fulham. But if we're talking Premier League, I think that Ange Postecoglou has done a fantastic job. He's transformed this football club. Yeah. He's transformed the way that we play with the under 18s and under 21s as well. The women's team is doing well with Robert Willingham at the moment. And the fan base. I know this last week has been, you know, pretty dismal. And a lot of people are feeling quite down about the two defeats. But up to that point, and when you look at the bigger picture, we're 2 points away from league leaders Manchester City sitting in fourth. You know, if anyone would have taken that, wouldn't they, at this stage?
Oh, mate, I would have bitten your hand off for being in the top four today. So what he's done and what he's doing can only get better. And I think I'm giving an Ange a 9.5. Not a 10 yet because we haven't finished the season, and I don't know where we are or where we're going to be. So, but
manager of the month in August, September, and October. That's pretty good going.
It's fantastic. It's brilliant. But then look what happened when he won the manager of the month in October. November? No, October. We went and lost 2 games. Do you know what I mean? So, I just think
it's not. It's not his fault though, is it?
I'm only joking. I just think. Yeah, 9.5. I love what he's doing. I can't give him a 10 yet.
Always room for improvement with Mr. Costa. And last question for you. The January transfer window, of course, is coming up. Hugo Lloris, do you expect him to go? 36 years old, no appearances, not even sat on the bench, doesn't even get in front of Fraser Forster, hasn't been given any official, thank you very much for your service, blah, 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 nothing like that. Doesn't ever look like he's going to play for Spurs again. Eric Dyer, of course, who we've mentioned. Sessegnon, who we haven't even mentioned yet. He's 23, although it seems like he has been around for years and years. He's injured at the moment. The lone players, Reguilon, Rodon, Spence, Tanganga, Ndombele, would you take any of them back? Do you want to see any of them back? And what do Spurs need to do in the transfer window?
I think I'd like to see what he could do with Spence. Spence is an interesting one. I don't know why. But I personally would like to see Spence come back and give him a chance if Ange could get something out of him. But the rest of the players, no, that's it. That's them done and dusted for me. Thank you, but it's time to move on. It'll be nice.
Doesn't it make it very difficult with Spence though, Ant? The fact that we've got Pedro Porro and, like you said about Emerson, not being able to get a lot of game time unless there's injuries and he's playing in a different position.
Yeah, I know, but it would be nice to see what he could do. I'm not saying he's going to get, he's going to be the best right back in the world. I would just like to see him come in for a good half of a season, for example, and see where he'll be. But yeah, the rest of the players, they will need to go. Thank you, but time to move on.
So, Ant, very last question for you. What does Spurs need to do as an absolute minimum in the January window?
Centre back and a striker.
You'd be happy with 2 players?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do you think?
I always think that the January transfer window is extremely difficult, and any decent players, players don't, or teams don't want to sell. And I think that fans always think that it's very easy to buy players, but I think January is going to be difficult. Although I do think that Ange needs to be backed fully in the right way and get the players that he wants in. And I also think that with the amount of changes that we've had at the football club, new director of football, new scouting system, things have improved week by week at the football club. But like we've said for years and years, no matter what manager we've had, we do need to be very active in the window and improve the squad. Like we've mentioned, the Africa Cup of Nations in January, when we play the likes of Manchester United, we're going to miss certain players. We've got these injuries as well. So it's going to be interesting. But have you got any names who you'd like to see Spurs sign?
No, I haven't, because I can say loads of names, but I don't think that they'll come. I just think it's all about what Ange wants. And I think if Ange sees something in a player that, I don't know, I would like an Ollie Watkins type striker myself to come in. Whoever is abroad, I don't know anyone at the moment, but that type of player can play on the wing, and he knows where the goal is. Do you know what I'm saying? Or a lot of fans are saying Ivan Toney, but I think he's going to be Arsenal bound if he does leave. So that type of player I'd like, a centre forward with pace.
Ange said the other day in a press conference, and that it was really important for him to have like the final say in transfer windows and recruitment. That certainly seems to be the difference, because many fans say about our recruitment, and it has been poor over recent years, but the summer recruitment, when you look at the players, that whole spine of the team has changed. Like, we've gone through player by player. Vicario, Van der Ven, Maddison, you've got Brennan Johnson coming in as well. Those players, certainly the first three, have made a real impact at the football club. And, with Ange having that say, how different do you think it is? Because when you talk about players like Jed Spence, who you mentioned earlier, Antonio Conte said a number of times, well, he was a club signing.
Yeah, I get that. I do get that. I just think he's young and he might learn off Ange. But the rest of the players, the spine that we've got now is so good. But it's when, as we said when we started talking, I repeat myself, when them players are not there, as we saw on Saturday, you really do see the difference in class. Yeah.
And so you think we're going to finish top four, yeah?
Yeah, listen, fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed.
Love it. Always pleasure to talk to you. Always a pleasure having you back on. Where can people find you? How can people buy a ticket if they're sold out?
Well, below, come to my taverna at the O2, Mamma Mia the Party experience. Look on the website. It's a great night out for all the family. Chris, you need to bring your missus, mate. I've never met Mrs. Cowlin, so it'd be nice to meet her.
I don't see her very often either.
I know you don't, mate. Your missus is a ledge. Absolute legend.
Anthony, pleasure to have you back. Thank you so much. And thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And until the next time, come on, you Spurs.